How are you?
Hi,
I
Coach
keep
Mike.
talking. I keep yapping.
What's up with
What's
your
doing, Lara? Yeah, it's really nice in the city, up in Harlem. A little rowdy up here, but
great to see you?
yeah. What about you? What's going on?
It's good. I'm
Doing?
excited to see all the people turn up from all corners of, well, we're all in the
Oh yeah. I thought it was just you and I. Let me look at them.
got it on gallery.
Yeah.
I'm just going to mute you for a second, make a few announcements, okay, Coach Mike?
Yep.
So I think people will start to be filing in. Um, for the beginning, you can have just mute your mic just to reduce chaos, and we'll give everyone like 2-3 minutes to get here, and then we'll get started. um, and I just want you to know, as you come here, this is definitely a place of collective wisdom, more so than um, I will lightly host and kind of MC the workshop, but I really want to make this time a shared wisdom, since we're all going through this movement together. And I am expecting a kind of a lot of people. We had a lot come on, so if we do get the whole amount, we'll probably do some group work. But if we don't get as many as signed up, then we'll stay in chat as one. But I'm intending to see some breakout sessions and play some games today. So thank you so much for being here. So like I said, we'll just give people like another minute or two to log in um, and get ready to meet everyone. Oh, I see Kristen's here. Hi. It's nice. I'm kind of, people from all corners of the world are going to be on here. So I've got kids yoga people and other kinds of teachers on, and we've got basketball represented, and we've got podcasters and educators of all kinds on here. So it's going to be an awesome group. And I'm finally meeting Maya, who I've seen all over the place online. So I'm excited she's here. Some of people here I've kind of seen online and don't really know. So hi, Maya. And Jesse, you're too. You're another person I see all over the kids yoga groups and finally get to see your face. So it's really nice. And there's some people from my training cohort. Hi, Judy. Good to see you. I'm gonna give it to 4:34 and then I'll start the whole shebang.
Thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome.
You're so welcome. Who just said that? Was that Kristen?
Jesse.
Oh, Jesse, you're so welcome. I'm very happy to be here with everyone and just learn how the new world works together. Right? Okay. How many people have a beautiful lighting still today from like the natural lighting? It makes such a difference. Yeah. My balcony's right here, but unfortunately in the afternoon we don't get much sun. So all right. Hi, welcome. Anna just came in. So I think a few people said they were going to kind of file in late. So I'll tell you what we'll do and then we'll get started. So I'm Lara Hocheiser. My company is called Flow and Grow Kids Yoga. And before the whole pandemic, we were definitely not doing too much online, like live classes and teaching. There was very much a small amount of what we did was online, and it was mainly in-person trainings and in-person school programming. And so I'm sure like a lot of you, doing all of the parts of your business online was a sudden shift. And some people were probably much more prepared than others. Raise your hand if you had to go out and buy new technology. Anyone? Yeah. Yep. Right. So we're having to make these big investments. And so welcome for the people just coming here. Hi, Jerry Ann. Good to see you. So I'll tell you a little bit about like where I ended up and what I've been doing. And then what I would love to do is play a game to find out what you guys are up to. And then from there, we'll break up into littler groups and share our nuggets of wisdom with people that are doing what we're doing. So what I've been doing, I had already developed my 95-hour children's yoga teacher training last year, but I had been too chicken to roll it out. I was sitting on it for a long time. And all of my students kept coming back and saying, when are you going to do this? So when the Yoga Alliance said, go ahead, I finally rolled out the 95 and been teaching it online, which was a terrifying, crippling fear that it would be not good enough. But I've got Judy and Jerry Ann both here. Honestly, like every single time we connect, it is incredibly engaging and fun. I get love messages every single day from people just about like what an impact it's making. So it isn't that it's less than, it's just that we have to be really creative and thoughtful when we're putting things online. So that's what I've learned when I'm working with my grownups. And there's so much anxiety around it because when you're not together able to connect, it's like, how are we going to convey the feeling? Like, right? Because a lot of you guys are feeling people like me, and we want to convey the feeling, and that connection so important to us. So I'm sure when we break into our groups, connection will come up a lot. So we have figured out how to make the 95 and the online trainings feel really at home. So I wanted to be able to share some of what I learned, hear what you guys have done. The other thing I've been doing, I've done some live classes on Zoom with children in small groups, with schools I was already working with, and I did some live stream over YouTube for donations. But I actually realized a lot of my colleagues were doing these classes for donations, and so I ended up kind of stepping out of that to give more space to those people because I'm focusing on other things. So we can all, like, there's a lane for everyone, and that's another thing I'm seeing. So in the kids yoga world, I'm noticing what works really well is the same thing that works really well in person, but spending much more time slowing down to connect. So that's like I'm seeing across the board. Everyone wants to talk. Everybody's like so present and excited to be there. So it is interesting seeing how well things translate to online, except for when they don't. So I've been doing pre-recorded classes as well for some of my clients. Those are easy as long as you like, you know, for those of us, raise your hand if you're a parent. So that is so difficult, right? To get a clean house that you can stage and teach and then send off, and you don't know how it's being received. So that's its own like brand of thing where, you know, because there's all these different little categories and people are working in big groups, small groups, medium groups, one-on-one. So I've kind of done all of that in this last couple months journey. Last year I did a lot of one-on-one coaching and consulting, kind of like what Emily Fleming, I think you do a lot of coaching, right? So that was one of the things I did last year. So it's not totally foreign to be doing teaching online, but I have to say it took a lot of bravery to step out and just do it. I'm sure a lot of you have felt that too. It's like, how do we put this thing we have spent all of our careers developing into this new format? So I thought I'd invite all of you here. A lot of people here are from Kids Yoga. I've got maybe a few from other worlds. So that's kind of where I'm at. And we just learned actually, so whoever is Yoga Alliance, either continuing ed providers or schools, they have extended the deadline that we can teach online for contact through the end of September. So anyone who's been like, I'm not sure, there is still room for you to roll out something, whether it's just something for continuing ed, or if you're a registered children's yoga school like mine, you can really fit something in and, you know, without taking up somebody's whole week. So just want to encourage that if that's something you've been nervous about, we can cross over these thresholds together, certainly. And so that's my story, and I want to hear from you guys too. So what we'll do first, and if anyone was here on the last call, we played Jazz Fingers If. So it's a variation on Cross the Line. So if something is like you're doing that, if something is true for you, you'll show jazz fingers. And that's how we'll figure out how everyone's teaching is going. Because I know we have classroom teachers, and some people are taking a break from teaching now, but I know like you're probably thinking about coming back as well. So we'll have a show of jazz hands if. So show of jazz hands if you are working with adults in some capacity, teaching adults. Okay. Show of hands if you are training teachers online. Show of hands if you are working with children online. Show of hands if you're working with children with adults, some kind of combination. That's always wild, right? Okay, jazz hands if you are working right now in a public school online. Oh, more than I thought, a lot of people. So you guys are amazing, and I'm surprised you're here because of how much daily Zoom you're on. So truly love you and so impressed by the stamina. Jazz hands if you're working in private schools online or independent schools. Okay. And if anybody's working with educators, like in more of a professional development online setting. Okay. If anybody's coaching little kids online, little ones. Coach Mike, that's you, right?
A little.
Well, you got a little one. Yeah, four counts for sure. Early childhood. Okay. Jazz hands if you've been using Zoom to teach. Hi, Mike. We're doing show jazz fingers if it's true for you. So jazz fingers if you've been using Google Hangouts or some other live online. I did a Google Hangouts with the public school and they couldn't mute the kids and I was like, no. Jazz fingers if you are using more props and visuals than usual to support your teaching. Yeah. Show of jazz hands if you find it exhausting when you're done teaching, like so exhausting. Anybody find that? But it's a paradox, right? Because who finds it so energizing when you are teaching? Anybody else feel like it gives you blood? Yeah. Such a paradox. But show of hands if you're more exhausted after you teach online than when you do in person. Okay, now jazz hands if you are the busiest you've ever been, even though you don't get to leave your house. How is it happening, right? Our work is expanding, yet some of our paychecks might be shrinking. So I hope they're not shrinking too much. I hope you're all okay. Truly feel like whether you're also in kids yoga or one of the other industries represented, there's always room for everybody, and we're not all doing the exact same thing. And even if some people are emulating their teachers or their role models when they get started, they end up figuring out their own lane. So I know when I was new, I felt very intimidated by other teachers, especially leaders, even though I looked up to them. So if you're ever in that position where you're like, how is this person doing all these things? And just know behind the scenes that person worked very, very hard to look as polished as they do. And don't worry about what they're doing. Just figure out what makes you feel good when you're doing it, right? Because that's going to feel good for the people getting it back. And that's how you create connections. And connections are really, that is what I found, whether it's with kids or adults or whatever I'm doing, that personal connection is above all. So it's like when I'm teaching, it's always about where I'm at. So if I show up so exhausted, I have to do some little pregame ritual to get myself there. So jazz hands if you feel like you have to do more to get yourself ready. Yeah, truly, like I'm a lot of jumping jacks. So I'm just gonna quickly go through and show you a couple things I do that have been really like good strategies to keep people engaged. And then I'm gonna find out who you wanna break up into rooms with. Probably people who work maybe with younger kids and then older kids, and then maybe people who are thinking more about coaching and training. Might be 3 groups. So I have been using a ton of my business, I have all these like visuals. I'm just using a lot of visuals more than ever. Also doing with my kiddos, like lots of just tangible stuff. And I let them go get their tangible stuff too. And that's been super sweet, just seeing the kids, like we get 1 minute to go look through our houses and bring whatever we want to the mat. So that's been really fun and a way for kids to kind of connect their environment they're in to what we're doing. And like another thing I do for visuals is I have a designer who works for me. She makes all these illustrations. We make a lot of like just professional looking slideshows to project and screen share when I'm talking. So everyone doesn't have to look at my mug all the time. So I'll just do a quick screen share and just show you like a very simple shot of something I've been sharing. So screen share, go. And here we go. So like, you know, just whatever the topic is, I would just press play on this this slideshow. And so so oftentimes if I'm just going to be presenting on any topic, I will just put it to a slideshow so it's not all about my face all the time. That seems to make me feel better. And I think it brings more of a visual. Yeah, Kristen, you too. So that's like, you know, I didn't invent that, but we can remember these old strategies here work, and presentations you made for your past life might carry over into this. So I'm doing so much experiential learning. So I try to make lecture be no more than 50% at the absolute max when I'm working with grownups, even if I'm working with kids, but it should be even smaller. But there's a lot of experiential learning. So my teacher trainees, we're always getting up and moving. If I talk about something, we then do it. So it's very interactive because I'm thinking about how do people learn, right? So this is across the board, kids and adults. It's like learning styles. Some people are kinesthetic and they're visual and kinesthetic. They're going to look and they're going to want to move in their body and do it. Others are reading and writing learners. They're going to read what you wrote. They're going to write down notes. And some are more auditory. They're going to listen for like sounds and cues. So always including all that. So it's like, none of this is new to us as educators, right? But it's like, as I started doing my lesson planning module in my 95, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it's like coming back to these simple basics when we're talking about lesson planning. And it's the same thing for teaching online. So the great thing is we don't have to really learn anything new that we're already not doing. It's like, it just carries over. One thing that's anxiety provoking for me, and I'm sure a lot of you, is like, how do you translate that to online? So I spend a lot of time translating my like lectures that would have been really great interactive in-person things to like, how does this work here when we're all separate? So that is one thing. And Jazz Fingers, if that's taking a lot of energy from you, is like, how do you translate this normal group thing? Yeah. So I think that's really why we're more drained than ever, because we're having to reinvent, and that's a lot. So I'll just give you one or two more pointers and then I'll break us up so we can all share our own. So yeah, just like we would in person, like having the 5 senses be engaged in some way. And like people in the mindfulness space know how important that is to stay present. So one of my trainees today submitted a video of himself teaching, and he was like rubbing oil between his hands, and the kid he was teaching was rubbing the oil between their hands, and you know, they're sniffing the oil, and I'm watching this, I'm like, this is like, it's great. It's like, it's obvious, but they were so engrossed in it, and I'm watching them and I'm engrossed in their experience. So it's really something to just consider, which senses can we still engage online? And sometimes it's about closing the eyes because we can hear, or because it is very visually stimulating, right? And that takes a lot of our brain power. So thinking about the senses, and just to continuously thank people. So like, how hard is it for us all, kids included, adults, to show up online over and over again? So like, those are the things I find make really engaging classes. The more gratitude I put forth, and the more, like, even my 4 and 5-year-olds I just finished with were like, thank you so much for this class. Like, I was like, and it's truly the simplest thing to just be grateful, but it really brings them back. And the kids that show up over and over again. And it seems like the kids that got lost in the shuffle and haven't had that connection are getting farther and farther. So one trick I do is I just reach out to the parent or the school administrator when appropriate and say, hey, I haven't seen this kid. If it's okay for you to have recordings, I do recordings, and I'll send them the recording to the parent and say if they want to join the next class. So like, these are just some tips and tricks. So I want to hear everybody's. So this is how it'll work. I'm going to make a group of people probably that work with young kids online, maybe then work with older kids online, and then those of us maybe more focused on working with adults in some capacity. And you're going to get together in these groups, and each person's going to share something that's been working really well for them. And then after about, I don't know, 7 minutes, we'll come back, and one member of your group will be like the voice of your group and share as much as they can. And it's okay if one or two speak. We won't really all have time to share necessarily. But actually, there's only 16 here, so it's possible we could all have a kernel. So give me jazz fingers if you want to be in that early childhood group right now. Okay, hold on. So, all right, so 1 sec, I'm going to create the rooms. So I see Anne. I'm gonna do Anne. So
I just have a quick question. Is the next group going to be, what's the age range for them?
I think we should just break it. That's a good thing. How many people here are working with kids that are like, I know, how many people here would consider themselves early childhood focused? And Mike, you're working mostly with older kids, right? Mike P? Oh, you're muted. Hold on.
Okay, so I have taught, currently my oldest student is 78, but I've also taught 3-year-olds as well. I wouldn't say, I mean, I'm teaching some 5-year-olds now, but I wouldn't say it's my focus, but I definitely would like to learn more about how to teach 5-year-olds.
Okay, well, which group do you want to go in? Little kids, big kids, or adults?
Adults, let's go for adults.
Great, so breakout room 2.
I was just curious if like big kids, like I'm teaching mostly with like 4 to 10 or 5 to 10, like elementary age, which is really different than preschool. I mean, I do some preschool, but I was kind of wondering about that age mostly.
Okay, so how many people are in Maggie's age? Judy, Maggie, let me just hold on here. So I'm gonna do Judy, 1 second. Oh, I already lost her. So Maggie, Jerry Ann.
Are you saying like we want to be in that group, or that we?
Yeah, you want to be in that group. Yeah. Okay, Sherry. Ann Fields. Where'd you go? Wait, I don't see you in there. Oh, I already put you in early childhood. Ann, do you have a preference between littles, or this more like? I'll unmute you.
You can't hear me. I'm working with both age groups right now, so
Preference?
no, I don't. It's whichever one works best.
Okay, Kimberly, what are you gonna do? 1 is little kids, 2 is older kids, 3 is grown-ups.
Probably grown-ups.
Okay, that's here. Okay, Kimberly. Sorry, I'm like dinosaur slow here. Sign. Kimberly. So Emily, I'm going to put you in that one too. Probably Emily Fleming. What about the other Emily? What's the other Emily's?
Yeah, I'm teaching early childhood, so ages.
Early childhood. Great. Okay. So
6.
add you there.
I really don't have a preference on where I go. I'm just kind of like a fly in the wall right now, just listening because I'm not really teaching online. So.
Okay. Did I assign everyone a room? Let me see.
I would like to be with the adults.
Who is saying that?
Anna.
Anna. Okay, great. Adult room 2. Let me see.
I can be in either the adult group or the big kid group. This is Maya.
Okay, Maya, let me just type it into the chat box if I missed you, because I'm going to open the rooms and then, okay, so on a side. So Anna, you want to be in the adult, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then who's not assigned? Kristen, you're going to be in which group? Little kids? Adult? Yeah. And then Yvette, which one do you want to be in?
Most of my kids are somewhere between 4 and 10.
Okay, so I'll put you in 3. Yvette's going to go to room 3. Okay. Maya, which room do you want to go to?
Let's do adults, actually.
Okay. Other Emily.
Oh, hi from Germany.
Hi. Which group would you like? Young kids?
The young kids, ages 3 to 6.
Okay. And Mike, you want to be adults? Big kids or adults?
Adults for me.
And then Jesse, last but not least.
The little kids.
Okay. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, totally.
Kind of like, are we, do you guys know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
so
Sorry.
yeah, I'll say it again to clarify that. So is this group talking about we're training adults in
Working with
children?
adults. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
It
Great.
doesn't have to be children's yoga, but it can be.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mike's actually a guitar teacher, but most of us are kind of in the yoga and mindfulness. But yeah, just focus on what working for you.
Okay. Great. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Great. Who would like to share some wisdom?
I think for me right now, it's about gathering. I'm not necessarily like pushing to create a lot of revenue from the gathering right now, because I know that it's a lot on myself personally. Like you were saying, Laura, I feel like really drained just being on a 1 hour Zoom call. So like thinking about doing the training for like long periods of time can sometimes be overwhelming to me. I've done those types of trainings before we were in lockdown, so I have kind of the idea about what it entails. And so for right now, with my stress levels, I've been kind of taking a little bit of a step back and just observing a lot of what's going on. So that's been really helpful to me to like create space so that I can know what I want to do next.
Yeah, so you're not going to just automatically step back into your same paradigm. Rethinking.
Yeah, definitely. Because before it was like go, 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 go. And now I have the grace to be able to have the space where I don't have to do that. And so I'm trying to be like compassionate towards myself and be like, okay, it's okay to slow down, even though you're used to just constantly doing everything all of the time,
So kind of piggybacking off of that, I have for the last couple of years done all of my trainings for kids yoga teachers who want to teach in schools. I've done them all via Zoom. So for me, this wasn't really a change, but what I found is that my next step now is actually turning that training and my like yoga and self-care for educators training into like more self-paced modulated courses, so that it's not as much of an immediate energy drain for me. So I'm looking at Teachable and some other platforms, and that's something that I've wanted to do for a long time, but I've put it off forever because it seemed too daunting. But this has really helped me realize, like, if I can spend the time that I need to create the tutorial videos on my own time, like, and then do, like every 2 weeks for whoever's involved, do a live call, that's a much more effective use of my time. And that's less draining for me than it is to be present for, live calls at 7:30 at night after being in the classroom all day. So that's just something that I'm leaning towards doing, and like my next step.
And it has the potential to pay you back for a very long time, whereas a lot of us are addicted to giving these classes, like, because we feel like if the money stops coming in, poof. But it's such a lie we tell ourselves, and that if we actually slow down and create a body of work that is accessible from anywhere at any time, it's not less of an offering, it's more convenient of an offering. So we think we mythologize it that it's going to be this lesser thing, but if we are making it and we are thoughtful, it's like it doesn't have to become that. So I'm right there with you, sister. Like so there. Maya.
Yeah, me too. Emily, actually, I love that. And that's where I'm at right now too. I started creating my online course back in February. So right before everything started. And I've actually used this time to continue creating. I'm still teaching my kids, but that has been less of a lift when I'm not in there 9 hours a day with the kids. So I'm kind of using this time to put my content into Teachable, actually. And it's almost ready, but I really want to have the engaging factor too. So like Laura, what you were saying about having it be more interactive with people, I think that it's such an important part of learning, such a physical practice. Like when we are moving through it ourselves, that's when we're really learning. So I've been sort of, actually, I'm going to be doing live Zoom calls with people in the course I haven't decided if it's weekly or every other week, to sort of let them ask questions and to maybe do some one-on-one. I also would, of course, want people to send me a video of them teaching in whatever format they can in order to sort of like give them personalized feedback. But those are sort of my next steps and figuring out exactly how that will work, just so that they know that I'm here for them. And yeah, they can go through it at their own pace, but also, like, I do need to be available when they're learning something that's so hands-on.
Cosmic Kids
To
is
say
doing.
something about the, did I interrupt someone?
No, go ahead, Anna.
Okay, so to say something about the draining factor, so I did trained an 18-week online on mindfulness and peace curriculum, and what I learned from that, so the first couple weeks was just like I was in this place of too much mental stimulation, too much talking, too much, video, and then what I discovered was that I built in that time that we were doing the online, and I was lecturing so much, I built in time to actually practice. And even my students, so I would set aside 30 minutes before we started lecturing, before we started doing anything else, we would actually do our own yoga practice and actually do our own meditation or mindfulness practice before we started actually going into the content. And I found in talking to my students in doing that, they looked forward, they look forward to doing that. And that was one of the things that we could do together. And it wasn't like I was the teacher, I was leading it. It was more like, let's just practice this together. Let's do 9 sun salutations together. Let's sit in silence for 10 minutes. And so I put the structure for us to practice together so we didn't feel so drained after the long content learning of the program. So I would suggest implementing something like that. That really worked well in my experience.
That's great. Thank you.
What about any words of wisdom from Mike Papapaglou, the guitar guide guru?
Me, I don't have anything wise to say. I ain't no wise man. No. What do I have to say that's wise? Well, honestly, I just I do feel blessed because this pandemic has actually done for my business really well, which is, it made me realize that teaching online is just a better way to move forward in what I do. It's opened up doors, and yeah, I actually don't want to go back to teaching in person.
I'm not going to go back to teaching in schools. I cannot ever do it, because what I lose by going in, I will never gain. It is not worth the hustle for the dollar, because the body of work I'm able to build by staying home is like going to be what I can live on forever. Like the relationships I'm building now beyond, like Mike and I both live in New York City, and we schlep everywhere. It is not like living in other cities. It takes so much to get anywhere. There's no easy commute, truly. I mean, there isn't. So I feel the same way as you, like truly learning that what I did not only didn't work for me, but isn't the smartest thing for my business either.
So just to elaborate a little bit, forgive me, somebody.
Please.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mainly teach adults one-on-one, teach them the guitar, but I teach all ages, teenagers. And initially when I first started just purely working for myself, I would be going to people's homes and don't do that. Just don't do that. Like, no, it's there's no dollar amount that's worth you traveling everywhere to teach. I'm glad I learned that from experience. Then I had people coming to me, which some people will, some weren't. But I mean, I know all of you, but I guess COVID has shifted the world to where it was going to anyway. So even I had some limiting beliefs as to if I can teach the guitar online, and I can tell you with absolute conviction and truth and certainty that I can still teach exactly the way I can, with passion, with accuracy online, just like I can in person. And I didn't, and it's true, and I didn't know this until I was forced to do it. And I'm sure you probably could say the same thing about yoga.
To some extent, I think, yes. I think like adult yoga might be different one-on-one than like, there is some touch involved, but like what I do is so much better from home. And like I'm actually hanging out with my daughter, and like we pay all this money to live in New York City, and I have a beautiful home, and like the fact that I can run my business from it makes so much more sense. So it just makes me question all the hustle I was doing, and like I never ever want to run around like that, because when the pandemic came, I was like on my last lap. I was already saying, last year I said I'm not going to do this again, and I did it again because it's what I know, right? But I am a teacher's teacher is also what I've learned. Like, yes, I love to work with kids, but people are sending me the feedback that like I'm changing their life, and like people I haven't spoken to in 7 years signed up for my 95-hour course after a single text message. Like all these signs just telling me, go in this direction, this is where you're headed, this is who you are. And there's plenty of people that all of us have like raised the next generation who can work in the schools, right? And we can employ them. So yeah.
Lara, I have a question for you. Are you going to be teaching either personally or through your instructors? Are you going to be offering school programs? But are you either going to have other teachers go to schools after this is over, or are you going to try and do what Evan is doing? Evan is a friend of ours that has a chess teaching empire. Are you going to have maybe either yourself or others do virtual yoga classes in schools?
I think we'll do.
Or are you not going down that route at all?
So to incentivize like allowing the instructors to live a better life, I think I'll charge a second hour for travel. And I'm going to say you have to pay $200 for an hour of yoga or $100 for an hour of video. And it's going to be obvious that the decision they'll make. It incentivizes them to improve my instructors' lives too. And the instructors be able to prove that they can shoot seated and standing and be audible and visible and have a nice backdrop. It's not that much to ask. So that very same instructor could go to a school, but the team I'm building right now lives all over the world because they're taking the online class with me. So I trust them more than someone who just took 18 hours of training with me. I trust someone who took 95, truly, because now they know about relationships. They know about the whole thing. So I want to figure out how to keep those people who I'm molding on my team. So I'm really going to incentivize a structure where they will prefer a virtual class, and we'll charge them special event pricing to be on campus or whatever it is. So I don't think that schools will have as much discretionary spending right away. So I think they will probably prefer that online route. So that's my thought. Anybody else?
I think that's absolutely fantastic, Lara.
Emily, do you have?
Go ahead, yeah. I think that's a great. No, I think that's a great idea. The educator in me is thinking through all of the like school-based logistics of video classes when kids are in school versus someone coming in person. I think it's a great idea. I just think that administrators are going to have to think about more logistically, right? They're going to have an adult in the room with the kids. They're going to have a projector screen. Like,
we already require adult presence for all. Like, that's a policy I have, because none of my instructors are licensed teachers anymore. They've all let those licenses subside. So even the ones that are educators or counselors, like, I don't want them to have the sole responsibility if something goes wrong. Because last year I actually was the only adult in the room in one of my classes, and there was a child that was very disturbed and it wasn't safe. And I was like, so I changed my entire policies when that happened, and I said, there has to be a grown-up in the room. So I'm actually very particular about who will even take on as a client, because if a school won't provide a staff member, I hesitate to provide like what could turn to babysitting. Especially if think in a normal group of 20, it's very likely someone there has a para during the regular school day, and they're going to send them to yoga without that person. So it can be anybody in the room. It doesn't have to be a lead teacher, but it has to be a school staff member. That's kind of how I've dealt with that issue, because I just don't want to have anyone on my team who's making maybe $60 to schlep out to a school be liable for something that might happen. So yeah.
I have a question. Lara, you have your program through Yoga Alliance, right? And I have my program through Yoga Alliance too, and I'm kind of bouncing around the idea about not going through them, and kind of like, what is your feel about Yoga Alliance? I'm torn about it because I don't.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
So the reason I bit the bullet and became a registered children's yoga school is just because I was sending people away to spend $4,000 with Little Flower Yoga for the last time. Like, people will come and want to study under me. What I realize is I could have just launched the modules I've launched under my yoga school for myself. And I do think you have to have a significant amount of clout and following to go on that like umbrella of your own. So I would say once you have enough following that you can get a healthy turnout without that requirement. So at this point, I'm like 20 to 25% of my participants want that yoga registered children's yoga stamp of approval. So it's still too significant for me to cut them out, but I don't know if I would renew. One thing I'll tell you though, I listed my course modules under my continuing ed provider, and I've had 3 module signups worth $700 from that. For the first time ever, I got paid back because I actually listed my courses beforehand. So I'm very on the fence about the ethics of Yoga Alliance and whether they are worth their weight. But for the first time ever, I have spent over $2,000 with Yoga Alliance throughout my career, and I finally made money back, so I could see some potential to gain. But if they say at September 30th, okay, we're not renewing online classes, I would say, fuck it, and I'm going to keep doing this as an online offering, because I feel the momentum building, and I know I'll be able to carry that. I think that like once you can and you have that confidence, you can break up with them.
Okay. Yeah, and have you heard of a yoga union? So I work with Heather Titus and some of the yoga people on the West Coast here, and they are starting a new Yoga Alliance type yoga. They're calling it Yoga Union. They were going to launch it at the Sedona Yoga Festival this year, but then we had to cancel postpone the festival and everything. But there's in the works right now another like facilitating body called Yoga Union. So I would like be on the lookout for that. Just to let you know.
Interesting. Hopefully it won't be another money pit. I think that's most people's qualm is like, we're paying into this thing.
Right. Exactly.
I didn't see value from it, but right now that people are looking for online courses and I listed mine and got some money back, I'm realizing I maybe should have just been listing my classes as a provider and probably would have been able to pay back my dues every year.
Yeah.
If the union helps get people W-2 benefits, and like, you know, fair wages, but yoga as an industry cannot afford that, right? Or we would be paying people that if we could, like, right? So it's like something about the industry itself is flawed in such a significant way that we do not have a sustainable way forward. So something will have to change. And I don't know what that is, because I can't imagine an individual wanting to pay more than they're paying for a class, right? That they already are.
Right.
What does it look like? Is it subsidized like school? I don't know. Is it like something you can use a copay for and we end up having to get a degree in it? Like, I'm not sure, but I do think that the requirements for teaching will go up and the standards will go up if we do get those protections. So expect that. Expect if we get more, we'll be asked a lot more of.
Lara, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
With the Yoga Alliance and the 95-hour for children's yoga, like, as I'm finishing up building my course, I don't know how many hours technically people will be getting. Is it video hours? Is it like, I mean, I know there's contact and non-contact hours.
So they're contact. I'm doing mine almost all live. There's only a little bit pre-recorded, but you can actually pre-record the whole thing. So if you had a teachable course, they would count that through September 30th. But I will say they are highly discouraging that route, but it's too much for them to police it. So I found that the pre-recordings I've made support my class in that I've like staged my house and done what they need to see, but I can then talk to them about it as it's playing. So that's sort of how I've done it. And I gave as much time to each topic as I thought it needed. Some of it's based on like how much A&P and stuff like that, but like once you get those hours in, it's really like, what do you see as the most valuable? So that's mine. If you look, mine doesn't look anything like the others because it's what I'm interested in as a teacher. So I don't know. I think you could really make it yourself shine in the way you present the material.
Perfect. Yeah, I wasn't really going for the goal of the 95-hour training since I know that that wasn't an option online before, but I just thought maybe, I don't know. I'll do a little more looking into it, but I think I just want to provide value to people and, you know, give them the resources and the tools to start looking into that at least.
Yep. I think I've seen like so much content from you out there that my guess is you have more than enough. And that's the same thing. I realized I had content for days.
Yeah, it's just like putting it together and organizing it.
I really took all of my comprehensive curriculum and made courses around them. And then I ended up making manuals. I actually have like, they're getting more than 2,000 pages. It's like completely insane. I way overshot it. It could be, mine should be a 200, but I just don't have it in me to offer that right now. So, okay. Yeah, I gave the whole group. Did you guys get the broadcast I just sent that says 1 minute warning? Okay. So the other groups. Anybody want to have a closing thing before I close the groups? Last thoughts? Oh, who's going to be our representative for the group to share some of our wisdom? I've already talked too much. Anna. Okay. Anna or Anna?
Anna.
Anna. Okay.
Anna.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to close out the rooms. It's going to close in about 60 seconds. So if anybody wants to talk us out, you're welcome to.
Lara, you're muted.
Welcome home. Welcome back. How was group for everybody?
Great.
It was good.
Awesome. So did every group, I forgot to say, you should choose a representative. So if you did not figure it out in your brain, ESP. So group one was the group with early childhood, that working with younger kids online. So I'd love to hear from someone in group one to give some of your wisdom to share with the whole group.
We didn't pick a rep. Is anyone wanting to do it? I could do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jesse.
We were just talking about the muting and unmuting at the end. Wait, we're just supposed to pick one gem?
You can pick a couple.
Okay, well, we were talking about how to interact, and Kristen was pointing out that if you ask a question, the kids can answer it even though they're muted and they feel like they're interacting, or you can see them on the screen and see what they're saying. And I do things where I unmute them at certain times, but that's on a computer, which might be harder on a phone. And I forget if anyone else wants to say, there was other stuff too.
Yeah, we'll take one more from your group. Kristen, you want to say anything?
Sure. I was just talking about how we've started to translate into putting stuff up on Vimeo for a week. So if parents pay for a class, we put it up on Vimeo for a week so they have access to it for 7 days. That way, like if your kid is having a meltdown at the time of yoga, which can happen and the interaction with screen time is not working well for you, they're able to still have it. And that felt like far more integrous to me instead of like, it felt weird to be charging for something if I didn't know I could actually hold their attention. So it gives the opportunity and the agency to the families to use it for when it's best for them. And that's that was my gem drop, but that's been my kind of epiphany over the last 2 weeks of how to translate this now that I know that we're going to be in this new normal for a while longer than I expected.
That's an awesome tip. I could picture Coach Mike doing that for basketball too.
Totally.
He's got very little kids in his basketball classes. So Coach Mike,
I love that idea, and I was taking that note. I was like, it's brilliant. If they have a meltdown, okay, no problem. You have 7 days. It's brilliant.
That's really great. And I do think that integrity, because I think a lot of us, and I heard Kimberly say this too, like we don't want to charge for something people can't afford right now. So that does really feel good. Okay.
I think that's why I decided to pre-record classes too, because I knew that it would be a little bit more challenging for them to stay with it. And so they have the access to whenever it's good for them. And I thought that was important for me as a teacher to be able to offer that.
Thank you. Okay, so from the group that's focusing on, I mean, this isn't like the oldest, but there weren't a lot of people here working with teenagers. So the older group, the 4 to 10, but obviously you have older kid wisdom too. We'd love to hear from you. What did you find?
Hi, my name's Shari.
Hi, Shari.
Hi. We kind of have a mixed bag group. Jerry Annis was kind of listening in. She's in her training still, so she's not teaching online yet. I'm also not currently, I haven't really started online yet. I work in a school and I was teaching classes at school, but it wasn't a required thing. So I'd like to start bringing it back now online. And I know Yvette has a couple of questions that she'd like to ask the group, but she is teaching right now. Yvette, if you had a question about recordings.
We talked about recording a little bit, and people had some ideas. I forget the name. What was the name of the woman who left?
I forgot her name.
Yeah.
Blonde.
Yeah, I didn't write it down.
Studio, right? She works for a studio.
Yeah, and she was saying she got the idea from you, Lara, that because I record the classes, and so I mute all participants and I turn it to speaker view, because even when I had gallery view and muted everyone, screen was going back and forth, and so parents don't want that. So I only get to see like part of someone's screen, and that's it. And I feel like it's really limiting my ability to interact during classes. So I would really love to know a way that I could just be recording myself and yet still have gallery view. The one woman did say that you will often in your share screen share a pre-recorded video and then be like a part of the gallery while you're playing. So I didn't know if that was the key or if you have another idea.
Well, sometimes I will use 2 devices. So I will like record on one, but then join on another. Yeah, Kristen's doing that. So, but I don't like the classes I have children interact in are private usually. So if I do record them, they're unlisted and I'll just share those with children that may have missed them. So I don't put those ones online. I just do ones where I record for children. So I would just wonder if that hearing them talk and things like that, in terms of, I know that if they appear in a video, you have to have permission. I would just check on the permissions rule. I think it's just appearing. So I think if you can hear them, it's okay. Anybody sure about this?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think if you're sharing a private link to something somebody signed up to and they know that it's something that they signed up for, when you're clear that we'll be recording this and sharing the recording and no faces are showing, it's different than if there's like access to it, like you're not putting it up on YouTube.
Right.
Or sending out a private link. And so that makes it different. If you're doing something where you are going to share it with the world and anybody can see it, in general, it's a picture that you take and you put up on your website, any of that stuff, like always you need a written permission. That's my rule of thumb. I don't know about you guys.
Well, I know if they appear, that is the rule, but if they are not appearing and you can hear them, that's a gray area. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you can just join from another device. So I would consider like just having 2 devices there, like a tablet or something. I have an old laptop that I will join from a different email. So I will send the invite to my old, like to another email of mine, and put that on gallery view so I can see people.
So it sounds like have the one device with gallery view and the other the other device would be recording, and it would just be
the one that you should do with your view. The one that you're recording from and that you can control with should have your face. That.
Okay.
I wasn't clear if were you asking how to record in gallery view? Or
She wanted to record without gallery view. She wanted it to be her teaching, but she wanted to get a recording of the class without the kids in it. So yeah, you can leave it on. Sometimes when I teach and I put it on presenter view, one of my participants will show up, and even if they're muted, and that was happening, it was really frustrating me during my 95 the other night, and it made me feel so distracted. So I just had to keep it on gallery view, but I'm showing them something and I want to make sure I can see what I'm showing them. And so I think it's an imperfect technology, but it's still much better than the Google Hangout, which like is not perfect. We are gonna wrap up pretty quickly. So I just want to make sure that it's 5:28. We're gonna stop right at 5:35. Mike has to go in 2 minutes. Don't worry, Mike, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we got something from the group I was in, which is people working with adults, before we left. Mike, you had some wisdom. Do you want to share it before you hop out of the call? You said something really great. So,
well, first of all, hello everyone. I wish I had more like. Right now, I'm giving a corporate city class, corporate guitar class for employees at 6 o'clock, and still people are still signing up. So my mind is not all with you guys. Although I know Lara's going to do this again, so hopefully next time I'll actually be able to be more involved. But I will say this. I'm wondering who here like was terrified when they realized that they're not going to be able to teach in person. Because I certainly was terrified. I was like, people who know me say that, oh yeah, I'm like, nothing can get me down. I'm always like, let's go, I got this. But
person I know.
I shit my pants a little bit when I actually realized, oh, okay, we're stuck home. So I teach guitar, right? And but this has been a renaissance it's really been a renaissance. I do not ever need to go back to teaching guitar in person ever until the day I die, unless I want to. Because now that I realize that it's And I mean, music teachers have been teaching online for years, so I'm kind of very late in the game, but it's not a competition. So, but I'm just, well, I would just say that online is awesome. Let's make the best of it.
Okay, and then so anyone from group 3, I think, wasn't it Anna was going to share for us?
Yeah, well, Mike shared a lot of what we were talking about. We talked about all sorts of different issues. We talked about the Yoga Alliance and teaching through Yoga Alliance, and really basically using that as like a marketing tool in a way, like getting your training out in that way, but also like what Mike said, like being able to teach anything online now, and now going back to actually the commute of going to different schools and seeing if you can bring in your content and during this time, instead of having people going to people, having people come to you and building that content. But that's what we talked about during our breakout session. So it was good. Oh, and one more thing. Saying something about taking breaks when you're on screen time for such a long time. It's not only hard for the little ones, it's also hard for the adults on the screen time. So mapping out times to practice your own, whatever it is, like whether it's that yoga or mindfulness or whatever, mapping out time together to practice it together and not focusing so much on the screen, like getting away from the screen and doing some interaction in that way as well.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say, I shared the idea that if schools want to continue to employ you and your teachers, you charge a much higher hourly rate for the in-person classes, because we were not valuing our time and our travel and our commute, and the yoga community couldn't afford to live, and we all had no safety net, and all the people that I heard like in complete disarray from a couple weeks of losing pay. Right. So we cannot be in that position. So to bring the whole industry up, we have to ask for more, we have to demand more. And I know like the economy's not in a great position, but we can incentivize them to continue to buy from us online by charging less and charging the full hourly rate for the teacher's commute, because it is our time and it is our livelihood, and we've been giving it away out of this sense of charity and karma. But karma isn't depletion of yourself, truly. It's living your dharma and giving your gift through who you are at your core. And it is not through self-depletion that we achieve that. And I think that's something we have like mythologized, and we have to just let that die away.
And I say one more thing too, is that this is going to help to supporting each other. I have to tell you that, Laura, I'm so appreciative of you putting this together, because this really means a lot to me, to know that I'm not the only one that's doing all of this, and I'm not going through all of these things and changes. So bringing and supporting each other is going to make a huge difference, and that's going to lift us up during this time as well. So thank you so much for putting this together.
You're welcome. There's room for everybody. Go into the chat box before I close out. There is a link there, which is a small business support link. It has everybody's like social and so add and go through and subscribe to everybody's stuff. I would really want, if everyone can subscribe to my YouTube, that's my one ask, or sign up for my email list on my website. One of those two, those are the things that I'm most focused on. But put your stuff on there. Let us know how we can help you. And I'm gonna share this link on my personal Facebook as well as the Kids Yoga Facebooks probably in the next 24 hours. So just want to let you know, people will really benefit from it. They didn't get to see our breakouts, which is why I wanted to make sure we closed by sharing some of the wisdom. But I hope you got to connect with people in those, and we really do all deserve to have that connection. So love you guys. So grateful for
Thank you.
Laura, what is the name of
Lara.
your YouTube channel?
It's Flow and Grow Kids Yoga.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Lara.
bye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Bye.